completely sort of destroyed my life, and I was newly clean, and I was just so kind of like, what the fuck, man? Like, I've reached this point again.
Spent my P's on garms and trainers, disco ravers, bad behaviors.
This is fucking sick, man. Like, I am fucking sick, yeah?
Spent my P's on garms and trainers, disco ravers, bad behaviors. Sunday mornings, what a nightmare. Yeah, I'm active, girl, I still care.
What is happening, people? And welcome back to another fantastic episode of Doing Bits TV. On this week's episode, I am joined by a very, very, very exciting guest. He is a model, DJ, producer, rapper, and all-around exciting character. So without further ado, it is Lukey Storey, and he is in the building! Thank you, man. I'm getting, like, every time I do an episode, people are like, yeah, the intros are getting better and better. So
sort of successfully broke down every single thing that I've ever done.
First of all, there's things that I didn't know about you, and I've gone away and done my homework. You were like the youngest one extra DJ.
I could have been. Yeah, I think that was in 2000 and maybe 2009, 2010. I did. It didn't go very well, to be honest. I remember I did, like, it was 1 till 5 in the morning, right? And I really didn't want to smoke weed before the show because I knew that was going to fuck it up. But at that point in my life, to get through the whole day to 1 a.m., it just sort of felt impossible. And obviously, like, I'd done a lot of pirate radio beforehand, which is a lot more kind of relaxed, you know what I mean? And my sort of approach to it was a little bit more relaxed. And I was like, shit, man, this is like one extra, you know what I mean? And it was like a mix show. So it was mainly sort of mixing. And I actually think I would have been a lot better at it years later. It's funny you brought that up, though. I hadn't thought about that. They use one extra as a kind of sort of testing, like, what's the word? Like sort of petri dish for Radio 1. Do you know what I mean? So it could have gone better, but I don't think I was meant to do it. You know, right now I'm sort of warm. I'm not hungry. I've got this lovely dog in my lap. You know, things are okay, man. Do you know what I mean?
Good flat, good vibes, girlfriends.
Yeah, I'm not complaining, man. Stuff's got really normal for me. I'm not used to it.
And how are you finding that? Like, are you enjoying the normality, or are you like, this isn't right?
You know what? I've honestly, I've been through enough madness in my life to really enjoy the simple things. Like, you know, my life's had, you know, chaotic periods, you know. In fact, you know, before, you know, ever since I got clean, basically, life felt really chaotic, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think if you've really been through the madness and been through the ringer with drugs and alcohol like I have, you really do appreciate the kind of simple life. And I guess on paper, you know, my day-to-day might look kind of, you know, I don't go out. Lockdown hasn't really affected my life that much. Like, it's funny, I keep seeing things. I tweeted this the other day of, like, people can't wait to get back in rooms with everyone. And I kind of get it, because people want to have that sort of club experience. And, you know what I mean? We're all in this together, enjoying the music kind of thing. But, like, I don't think like clubbing was ever my thing. I just happened to be on the other side of it, where I was playing the music that I love.
You enjoyed making the music and, like, creating the energy, but then to actually be on the other side and be in that atmosphere and that energy, sweaty pits, you know, just sweating with strangers, being kind of bubbled up. That wasn't your thing then?
Well, I started DJing when I was like 16, 17.
Right.
And in a weird way, I was just so passionate about it. So basically, sorry, I feel like I keep mentioning drugs. When I was a kid, all I used to do was smoke weed and practice. Do you know what I mean? And so I got really good. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I wanted to do. And I had that sort of, just that sort of childlike passion for it, which was like, I'd go to school and I'd come back and I'd just practice, and it didn't feel like practice. Or I was speaking to my friend about this the other day of, you know, in theory, I've done a lot of research within hip hop. Do you know what I mean? But none of it felt like research. You know, I just was genuinely interested in the hip hop that was made before I was born. I kind of fell into it by accident. I just really loved something. And then I remember kind of hearing pirate radio, and one of the presenters just said, you know, if you want to send a demo or to have a radio show, it's Itch FM, which was like a hip hop radio station back in the day. And, you know, I do things like I heard that, I switched off the show, recorded a demo for like half an hour and called them back and was like, I've done the demo. Now where do I send it? Yeah. And I did that. And then, you know, and then I ended up doing pirate radio for a bunch of years. And so I was getting a name for myself, but it not in a way of like, I've got to have a name for myself. Do you know what I mean? I just think that I've always wanted to connect with people, and I just loved what I did. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you don't love what you do, like especially in this music shit, then you're gonna quit really soon. Do you know what I mean? I like to think that if it's all said and done and I'm left in my room and it's the apocalypse, I'll still be doing the thing that means most. Do you know what I mean? So,
and I feel like with the music thing, there are so many. Well, with anything media orientated, there is so much stress and there's so much like tough stuff that you go through to get an end result. Unless your heart is in there, you might get through the first hurdle and make a song, but then by the time you have to come to something bigger, like create an album that keeps up the same energy that your first song did, if you don't have that core love for it, you're gonna fold on like, you know, issue 3, because if issue 1 was a struggle and you haven't got the love, well, your first EP was like what, 2019, I think.
Yeah, you have done your research. Respect.
I'm a little thanks, man. No worries.
My first single was 2018, and yeah, and then I did I'm As Shocked As You Are, which came out I think I did release 2 EPs in 2019. I didn't release anything officially in 2020 for various different reasons, and 2021 I'm super excited about dropping music again. It's probably going to be around summertime.
Good.
And I'm really kind of not rushing anything. Do you know what I mean? I've become really like, you know, at the end of the day, like I know that the music that's get released is going to be around forever. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I want the whole package to be perfect. Do you know what I mean? Or perfect in my eyes. Do you know what I mean?
And it's something you want to be proud of. And like you said, it's going to be around forever. People are going to be able to access it. It's also like more so when you're someone like you and you actually love it, you want to go back and reflect on it yourself and be proud of yourself. Yeah. Be like, yeah, man, because there's two different, well, there's ways I see it with music. Yeah, you can make music for other people and that you know might sell better and get higher numbers or whatever, or you can make music that you enjoy and you know that people like mine to you will enjoy. And that stuff is timeless because times change, man. This music you make right now might not pop next year, or do you know what I mean? Genres change all the time. But
I mean, if you're making music for other people, there is so much that is inevitably going to go wrong. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's that thing of like in life, if you're pretending to be someone you're not, right? Even if it works, I'll get this sinking feeling that I know it's not me. Do you know what I mean? So there isn't for me any payoff really. Do you know what I mean? From doing that. And also, you know, I just think that, and if you make music for other people as well, it will just, to me, it always feels inauthentic. Do you know what I mean? So those are two massive reasons why. Also, you can try and make music for other people or like someone else, but you know, I don't think that's really good for business either. Do you know what I mean? Because people are just going to want the original. You know,
you're
trying to emulate. If you're trying to emulate someone, you're just an emulation. Do you know what I mean?
That's
emulation, that word, I don't know, but
I feel like emulate it doesn't matter if the word isn't real. The way you said it, you got me. So I was like, well done.
It's a simulation.
A simulation. I'm trying to think of another. Yeah, I mean, we'll go back to it because that was a good way to put it. But
it's difficult though, man. A lot of people are, you know, it takes bravery to be yourself or to even delve into who you might be. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I couldn't agree more. That is so well put.
It takes a sort of confidence and you know, and confidence can kind of come naturally, but it's also to do with like, you know, how you've been brought up, or, you know, what situations you landed yourself in. Do you know what I mean? And like, thing about my music is I was waiting my whole life to be that honest. Do you know what I mean? And didn't really feel like I could. And the one thing that most people say about, you know, or that message me about my music is that it's really honest. And I've never really felt like I've said something that was too honest, that someone was like, oh, I can't believe he said that, because more than likely people can relate to it. Do you know what I mean? And you know, if anything, it'd be great if my music encouraged people to be more honest in theirs or in life. Do you know what I mean? Because honesty is a superpower, man. It's just like, you know, you can't fuck with it. Do you know what I mean? You're kind of bulletproof because it's like, this is my truth. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. And I would say, like, getting older and becoming more intelligent and wiser, you start to really value being yourself and being like you said, honesty it's like the key to open doors that you didn't really know to be open. Like, you've walked past these doors many times, but they weren't important doors back then. You get older and you're like, shit, those doors were actually so important. And honesty was all I needed, man. And it's good. And that's what I think, listening to your music, it's very different, but it's very you. Like, you know, you hear, I don't know, man, you'll hear various drill artists or grime artists or, you know, whatever genre. Usually you can say, oh yeah, that sounds very much like, oh, that sounds exactly like, they sound like similar songs. But I listen to your music and, rightly or wrongly, I don't know. I don't think I can actually relate it to any other person's sound in terms of music.
I hear that a lot as well, man, like genuinely. And, you know, I don't know if that's like, whether that's kind of stunted me, or whether it will take longer for people. It takes people, you know, it takes longer for people to kind of get what I'm doing. But the one thing I can say is it feels so instinctively correct to me. Do you know what I mean? And like, you know, and I have this thing, not to get all kind of super hippy dippy and spiritual, but like, I don't really feel like I take full credit for my own art. Like, I feel that, like, often I never stress over a song. Like, if a song is not happening, it's just not happening, and I'm not meant to make that song that day. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like, I feel like a lot of the best lyrics and concepts have just arrived in my head from somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? It took no effort. Do you know what I mean? And the best songs that I've done just sort of happened. Like, I always start with the chorus, and I'll put a chorus down, and it was almost like I did it in some sort of blackout. And I'll be working on the rest of the song, I'll be listening to this chorus, and I was like, I can't actually remember and pinpoint the moment that I sort of had the idea and put it down, you know, because I don't write my music, my lyrics. I need to be on the mic. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and also another thing I'll kind of say is, it's weird, is that and I'm sure I don't feel like I'm actually really a rapper, but I'm sure I'm not the first rapper to say that. It's like, for me, I feel like I'm kind of more of a songwriter who does rap and who doesn't sing that well. But that's the kind of combination of what I've ended up doing. And like, a lot of it, you know, I love melody, do you know what I mean? And I've always loved good pop music, do you know what I mean? And so it's kind of like, for me, it's a mesh of sort of a lot of classic hip hop sensibility, but like a fuckload of melody, do you know what I mean? And
what a way to put it. What an incredible description.
For me,
that was.
it sits between hip hop music and pop music, is how
I see that.
Especially my more recent stuff, like from I'm as Shocked as You Are to Heartwork to like certainly like the newer stuff. That's where it sits. So you could say I'm currently sort of making pop music that's unpopular because it's not. It hasn't reached. It hasn't
not yet.
Reached, you know, the masses and stuff like that. But I know I've never articulated like that it before. But I'd say it sits right in between hip hop and pop.
But as you said, I mean, you're doing it for you, and you're making music that you love, that you enjoy, and your authenticity is so important.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to make music. Like, I really, none of this has ever felt like hard work. Do you know what I mean? Occasionally I've like heard flows and I was like, that's really cool. And I kind of want to figure out what they've done there. Do you know what I mean? And recently I have been experimenting with different flows and stuff, but it all feels, the whole thing's felt organic. Do you know what I mean? None of it's felt forced or mathematical. It's never felt mathematical. Do you know what I mean? It's always been from the heart. And it's always been, you know, it's just been my natural path. You know, it really does feel that way. And I'm probably more in love with it than anything I've sort of ever done. I think that like definitely the years of smoking weed and then going on to harder drugs, it kept me very small, and it had me on mute to a certain point. Do you know what I mean? Where I wasn't able to be completely myself, because when you're on sort of substances, it kind of numbs you, it dulls you, it kind of closes in your spirit. So as soon as I got clean, I just kind of exploded with sort of, you know, 10 years of stuff that I wanted to say. Do you know what I mean? And like my first couple of singles, like What It's Like was the first thing that I dropped, and I was just angry, man. I was just
and
like,
that's your most popular song, I think, as well, in terms of views.
It kind of is. That one and Rita. I did a song about meeting Rita Ora once at a house party, and there you go. That's the difference, man. I mean, my topics go from like depression, addiction, suicide, to just kind of talking about sex.
When you were doing more DJ related stuff, was that not as honest, or that wasn't as meaningful to you?
It's also kind of more of a primal thing to do. I think I got bored of pushing buttons all the time, and I wanted to actually use my voice. And there's something quite primal about it. Obviously, the music that you decide to play says a lot about you, and yeah, because you can actually talk to people as opposed to what was he thinking when he made that routine kind of thing. You know, I used to love it, but it was way more skill based. You know what I mean? Not to say, hopefully my music is also skill based, but there's a lot more. I'm able to reveal a hell of a lot more.
And I think it's just more genuine as well. I mean, in the most basic form, if you're putting your own voice and your own words and your own raw emotions onto a song through speaking, it's very personal, and it's literally almost you're having a conversation with your audience, but you have music to support that.
Sometimes, you know, some people might not have that sort of deep desire to communicate. I have that deep desire to connect. I've always had that. It's weird, like my music now, I feel like I'm less angry now. Do you know what I mean? I got a lot of stuff off my chest. So now the stuff just feels more fun. A lot of my first records, it was like, fucking hell, man, this kid's got issues. A lot of my writing was spawned off the back of a heartbreak. You know what I mean? So I had I was in such pain. You know, I'd never felt sort of adult pain like that. I was like newly clean as well. And I got my heart broken. And so like a lot of I'm As Shocked As You Are was about that. And I wish that writing songs about it fixed it, but unfortunately it didn't. It helped a little bit, do you know what I mean? But like, I think, you know, a lot of that stuff is time. The most painful situations I've been in my life have ended up being the best things that have ever happened to me, because you either carry on walking, or you I don't know, take drugs or kill yourself. And on the other side, you're kind of stronger and more aware, and you're sort of forced to meet yourself in a way that's really uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? That really challenges who you think you are. I think that's really, really important.
And this is why it's so important for you to see those periods of your times as turning points for you to become a better version of yourself. I mean,
it's very difficult to see it like that when you're in it, but in hindsight, for sure, man. I think it's you know, character building doesn't feel like a big enough term, but it is, you know, it's really important that you go through things that challenge who you think you are. I think disappointments are really important, because they kind of mature you. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I value everything, man. I've got no regrets, you know.
When we spoke on the phone, we were talking about LA and your dark times with Los Angeles and how I was living in
Yeah,
Long
we
Beach
spoke
for a
about
bit.
that the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, man, and that's when I indirectly started stalking Luke. I just followed him on Instagram. Thought, oh yeah, this guy looks pretty cool. And then
Were
here we go,
you
man.
having a good time out there?
I'll be honest.
At least
I was, because I was a student. So imagine being 21, an English 21-year-old student in like
that's really fun.
Paradise complex, yeah, with free swimming pools,
really
barbecues, beers, girls everywhere, and obviously, you know as well as I do, having the English twang is a big move.
Yeah,
it helps, man. So
I think a lot of that sounds like a lot of fun. I think it really depends on the reason and how you go somewhere. I went to Australia with like 17 of my sort of closest people at the time. Is when I was DJing for Professor Green.
Oh, okay.
And so I never really thought I want to go to Australia, but the way in which I went there, which was like in a team of 17 people, and we were doing shows all the time, you know, my mind was super engaged and I was having so much fun. So I had so much fun there. Whereas in LA, I've just had bad luck in LA. And I think a lot of the time I went for the wrong reasons. I think, I don't know if I said to you on the phone the other day, but the first time I went to LA was just to check that it was there. You know, it was like I'd seen it in so many films and it just seemed like another world and so iconic. Do you know what I mean? Nothing should really work, but it does, because it all looks like a prop, because I grew up watching films set in LA and New York. Do you know what I mean? But I have this weird thing with America where like I feel like every sort of once a year I need to go.
So let me get it straight. So you, like the first time you went out there on like the most bizarre reason, just to see like what it was like in person. And you went out there on your own.
I went to go and stay with a guy who came over to London, and he was my mum's best friend's son.
Okay.
And he played in a band. I was DJing all over London. He kind of rolled with me, and you know, we were kind of drinking and doing a lot of drugs. And when that happens, you're kind of under the illusion that you sort of become best mates straight away. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, and we had this, you know, like on pills and stuff like that. So we just kind of formed this like brotherhood immediately. But then when I got over to LA and obviously kind of arrived there, it suddenly dawned on me that I hardly know this person at all. And I'm like sort of staying in his house, but he's been nice enough to invite me. You know, that kind of drunk talk where it's like, yeah, come over, man.
And then you were like, and then you actually took it up.
Yeah, and I actually took it up. Yeah, maybe he sobered up the next day and was like, that was a bit weird. I don't know why I invited him all over to my flat, but I took his offer, and so I went. He might have thought, well, this is awkward. I can't say no now because he's actually like really up for it. And I went there, and it was my drinking and my using. It was just before it got really, really bad. So I kind of really ended up sort of pissing him off, man. I was just wild out there. So that was the first time where it didn't go well. And again, like, you know, I remember, I think we did Coachella. We drove to Coachella with me and two other girlfriends of mine. And it was amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, I've had amazing times when I was drinking and taking drugs. You know, like the majority of my time with Professor Green, where we just were touring constantly and doing all the festivals and all these TV appearances. And like I said, we had a residency in Ibiza every weekend, you know, flying backwards and forwards to Ibiza. We did Australia, Europe, you know, it was incredible. And I do sort of want to say that like I had amazing times. Do you know what I mean? It was just towards the end where it kind of caught up with me. Do you know what I mean? And it got kind of dark. Do you know what I mean? But
you know, despite all the dark shit, there were many, many good times, because you're sitting there telling me, yeah, Ibiza residency, Australia, Europe, and all these mad TV appearances and tours with Professor Green, and I'm sitting there getting giggity about your life. Like, I'm like, wow, that's so sick, man. That's incredible.
I feel like I always had a feeling that this won't be forever. Do you know what I mean? So like, just enjoy it. I ended up working with him for like 10 years or just shy of 10 years. And but I knew that it was quite spectacular. Do you know what I mean? I was perfectly aware that not every, like, a very small percentage of people are actually living in this way. Do you know what I mean? And I just kind of, yeah, man, I felt like I was sort of living that rock star life, and it came very natural to me because, you know, I'm essentially an addict and I like extreme shit. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, I don't think I'm like the most technical rapper. You know, you can listen to like Kendrick Lamar or someone like that, and I'm like, fucking hell, it like blows me away. But I think the one thing I am really good at is creating a mood to make you kind of feel something. Do you know what I mean? And the other thing that I think is, I mean, I've definitely technically keep getting better. When I released music in 2018, I thought, this is fucking sick, man. Like, I am fucking sick, yeah. And now I listen back to my music in 2018 and I'm like, oh shit, I've gotten a lot better. I remember there was one guy, an artist who came around who I really respect, and I played him some of my, when I was just started out, and he was like, I really like this, but I'm more excited about listening to you in 2 years. And I was like,
oh,
what do you mean by that? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sick already. Do you know what I mean? And he kind of said to me, don't let anyone make you feel like you've capped. But what about this stuff now? And now if I look back on it, I'm a lot better than I was in 2018.
When was the last time you were working on music?
This is a really good question, right? Because so I've got basically a whole project that's like on its way, right? And it's that, you know, different tracks are at various different stages. Most of it is all done and written and recorded, but some of it needs to be mixed. I've been like, and all that music got made in lockdown 1. Do you know what I mean? Whereas basically I was kind of like, I was newly clean again. I had 3.5 years clean and sober, relapsed for a year, fucked myself up again, completely sort of destroyed my life. And I was newly clean and I was just so kind of like, what the fuck, man? Like I've reached this point again. So again, like, but it was a highly creative time because there was a lot of problems up here. Do you know what I mean? And even if the music comes across maybe humorous, maybe dark, maybe whatever, I had that need of like, I need to express this stuff. Do you know what I mean? And now at the moment, life feels really good. Do you know what I mean? I'm in a good relationship. You know, I've just moved in with my girlfriend. I've got a dog. You know what I mean? Like, you know, things are kind of nice. And so there's a lot less to say. Do you know what I mean? Also, because what I do is, because I you know, I work a 12-step program in recovery, and one of the steps you do is you take an inventory and you write down all of your resentments that you've had your entire life. Do you know what I mean? Like people that have kind of pissed you off, resentments towards, you know, your mum and your dad or whatever. But when you get to the end of that process, you get to look at your part in the situation, and look at your behaviors and how it, you know, my behaviors lead to certain situations. So what happens by the end of that process is when you look at your part, you don't really blame the other person anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like it really releases a lot of, it's like sort of the bleeding of a radiator or
right.
It drains you of a lot of stress and tension. The last song I made was a song called I'm Fine, which is basically the fact that like I'm fine and I'm not used to it. I'm not, you know, and that's been happening recently. People have been asking me, how are you? And I've just started saying I'm fine. And that's it. Back in the day, how are you was like, how long have you got? Do you know what I mean? People used to regret asking me that question. Do you know what I mean? So like, well, blah, 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 and this happened and that happened and then that guy and I can't believe and like shit has just got real calm for me now. There's so much evidence that money, fame, numbers does not fix the internal stuff. Do you know what I mean? The kind of, because in a way as well, it's to do with like your sort of motivations. So like I remember seeing an interview with Will Smith, right? And he got his heart broken when he was like 16 or whatever. This girl cheated on him. And I think his dad never said that he was proud of him. No matter what he did, his dad never told him he was proud of him. So he made a decision at 16. Do you know what? I'm going to be the biggest fucking movie star in the world. And then you'll see. Do you know what I mean? And he did it. And he got to the very top. And he said he still felt like that broken child.
Wow.
It didn't do what he thought it would do. And if you look across history, you've got people that, like, you know, they killed themselves at the top of their game. You know, you've got like Amy Winehouse, man. She had the world at her feet, but it wasn't enough. Do you know what I mean? Had she found recovery, you know, I feel like her death could have been prevented. And it's the same for all these artists, you know, Kurt Cobain, Elvis, Michael Jackson, Prince. Do you know what I mean? They get to they have the whole world at their feet. And I do think it's why, if you look at interviews with like Kanye West and Justin Bieber, they're all starting to talk about Christ. They all talk about God now, because I genuinely believe that if you don't find your own form of spirituality, and you think that fame, streams, views is gonna, you know, heal your trauma or whatever's going on for you, it doesn't work, man. So I feel like if it wasn't enough for Amy Winehouse and Kurt Cobain, I can afford to chill.
At what point did you openly say to yourself, I am an addict?
I mean, the thing is, as well, is I had this really polarized view of what an addict was, and I was sure that you had to be homeless and injecting. Do you know what I mean? That was like my real kind of idea.
Right.
Like, that was an addict. Do you know what I mean? And I'm essentially just sort of I was just an extreme party boy, and it went wrong. Surely you know, I'm kind of not an addict. And I was dating this girl at the time, and
when you say time, you what year and how old were you at this point?
I first got clean in 2015.
Right.
And then relapsed in 2018, and I'm now 19 months clean again.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. And how it all started was I was seeing a girl, using a lot together, and she had a flatmate who we were also just kind of, you know, using with all the time.
And this was London. This wasn't LA.
London.
London, right?
In London. And so I'm dating this girl who has this flatmate who I know uses just like me. And she said to me one day, oh, he's going to these meetings and now he's clean and it's all he can ever talk about. And now he's getting all self-righteous on me about, you know, there's a different way to live and you guys don't have to be doing this stuff. But that was the seed that got planted. And I always felt that, like, there were times where, you know, I would have been up all night, or I've been on like a 3-day bender or whatever. And there was always part of me that was like, I didn't want to be doing it. Like, I knew it was wrong. There was other people that didn't seem to question it. Also, there were people that could sort of have a night out and just do loads of coke and then just sort of wake up in the morning, splash water on their face and function. I was like a feral, damaged bird. Do you know what I mean? That was just like then fucked for days. And so it was like, when the girl I was seeing at the time kind of said, oh, like the guy's name was Jimmy. He's like, Jimmy's going to meetings now. And so I remember just one particular bad session or whatever, and I was like, come on, we need to get more, and then I'll go to a meeting in the morning. And it just kind of came out of my mouth. And the next day I went to a 12-step meeting, and I had no idea what to expect. And I was like, who are these people, man? Like I thought, man, are they all aliens, or they're a different breed of people? I thought you had to look a certain way to be an addict. I just didn't really know. But when these guys started sharing and how honest they were being, and how I just didn't believe that anyone was really clean. Like, to me, it never occurred to me until I was like 29 that I might not have to take drugs every day. That idea just never occurred to me. But I loved it straight away for how honest people were being. And in a way, I think that's why I'm really honest in my music, is because I'm well practiced in it. Because, you know, I connect with my sober people. We're constantly being honest, so I'm sort of well practiced in it. And so when it comes to making music, it's kind of like the same thing. You know, I'm used to kind of being open. You know what I mean? So,
and then when you were this extreme party boy that kind of more or less just took it too far, but that taking it too far just became more frequent and happened more times than not. Like, how did you address being an addict? Did you have friends say to you, like, Luke, you've taken this too far, you go out too much? Or was it something that you recognized within yourself? And also,
Yeah.
You said uses. What are we talking about? Coke or something else?
The first thing that brought me into recovery the first time around was just cocaine and alcohol,
right?
And also just really strong skunk and stuff like that. But the funny thing is that, like, you know, I don't even think the amount of drugs I was taking was that crazy. Like, I reckon there's people that could probably do way more than me, but my brain chemistry is so fragile that it can't handle substances. And obviously I've got like mental health anyway. So if you put substances on top of my mental health, there's no hope for me. So cocaine and alcohol was enough to get me in the rooms, and trying to, you know, doing towards the end of the Professor Green stuff, and, you know, leaving gigs, going to parties, going home. And before I knew it, it was the next day and I hadn't slept, and I had to somehow keep myself upright. Do you know what I mean? And I was just such a mess, and it was so dark, man. It was just like knowing that this was the next day to everyone, but this ain't the next day to me. This is the same day. Do you know what I mean? And just trying to function, and the come downs, and also just being you obviously know People Just Do Nothing, right?
Of course, yeah. I had Hugo on recently.
For a while, I felt a little bit like Steve's. Do you know what I mean? A little bit, but you know, I didn't think that at the time. I thought I was a fucking rock star. Do you know what I mean? And also the music industry has kind of calmed down a little bit. I don't think it was like what it was back in the day, you know, like the 70s and the 80s, and people getting like smash. Like, it's actually become quite tame and a lot more professional nowadays. So when I got there, I was kind of a bit shocked. I was like, hang on, man, this is not what.
Yeah.
Why am I the worst one here? Do you know what I mean?
Where's all the other rock star, like, absolute
where's all, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Where's all the madness? And so that was enough to get me into recovery the first time round. An interview with me on weed would not have been interesting.
Right, yeah, let's get through it. All right. So the weed interview, how would that go? That would be non-existent.
It just would have been quite boring.
Okay.
Much out of me.
So we're going now. Cocaine, Luke. Would have been.
Yeah, I mean, cocaine, Luke, I probably wouldn't have let you speak at all. And I probably would have just been answering my own questions. You know
Brilliant. Yeah. And then drunk.
And then alcohol, I probably just wouldn't have made much sense. Do you know what I mean? And I probably, you know, so I'd like to think you've got the best version of me here today. This is you in your prime form. It's been good enough, but this is as good as it gets for Lukey Storey at the moment.
No, well, Lukey Storey, thanks for telling me your story. I wish you all the best with your continued success on being sober.
You too, man.
Music, just every aspect, man. I really want to see you do well. So
good luck with this stuff, man. Just keep it up, man. I've really enjoyed talking to you, man. I think you're onto something here. So
thank you, man. All the best, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You love yourself, mate. Have a good day, yeah?
Spent my P's on garms and trainers.
Keep doing bits. Bits are important to do. Do them.
Always.
Do bits. Keep doing bits.
Spent my P's on garms and trainers. Disco ravers, bad behaviors. Sunday mornings, what a nightmare. Yeah, I'm active, girl, I still care. Yeah, you're boogieing.